Maybe it's because of the fact that their behavior is all these things that we underestimate those students. I was in Shop and Save on Thursday. Now, I don't like to go to Shop and Save, but they bribed me with this $10 coupon in the paper. And that's a whole other sermon. I'm not going to get into that today. I need some counseling, I think, over this issue. But I will tell you about just this one event that took place in Shop and Save. I get my stuff and I go, and you know it's a game to pick the line that's going to move the fastest, right? And so I had my winning horse and I'm in the line, and the people in front of me just had these liter bottles of Schweppes ginger ale and pink lemonade. You'll get why this all applies in just a minute. Now, they had those things, maybe about 10 bottles or so, and then just a few other random things. So I'm thinking, this is a really good checkout. So I'm standing behind them. Everything is going as planned until they're ready to get rung up. And at that point, the woman, it's a couple, the woman produces two $5 coupons that can be used on Pepsi products. At this point in time, the clerk and the couple have an exchange over whether or not these qualify as Pepsi products. They were insisting that they were. They wanted you to get the $10 off. The clerk was saying, no, those are not Pepsi products. If you know truly what they are, I don't want to know. I'll probably just get mad. So the clerk at this point, what does she do? She picks up the phone and she talks to the beverage people back there. All right? And she says, is Schweppes ginger ale, and her voice is kind of escalated a little bit, is it a Pepsi product or not? The answer that comes back from above is no, it is not a Pepsi product. She hangs up the phone. She tells the couple she cannot accept the coupon. It's stalled out. They will not pay because they are convinced that they need their $10 off. So the conversation raises up just a notch, and now a little bit more intensified. The clerk picks up the phone. Again, she calls back to the beverage people, and she asks the question, and this time the answer changes. And suddenly there are Pepsi products. And it could be because of the fact that this couple was more intense and the clerk was more intense, and whoever at the other end of the phone says, I don't have to deal with this, and said, fine, they're Pepsi products. And so as she's ringing up the couple, she cashes out the coupons, and she comes around and she lowers her voice and she says, I apologize. But the person that picked up the phone was only a teenager. And I'm thinking there's a reason why I'm in Shop and Save on Thursday. And what struck me is we have been underestimating teenagers for thousands of years. Why would American culture be any different? Remember David and the boy before he was king? He goes out against Goliath, the giant. I mean, they call him the champion from Gath, of the Philistine army. If you ever saw Troy, this is kind of the same thing where they just send out one warrior and the warriors fight, and then whoever wins, you spare all the soldiers. Well, this huge giant of a guy comes out every day and he taunts the Israelite armies. And David goes out against him. And Goliath looks at him as he gets closer. He's ready to fight. You know, he's been waiting for days to chew on somebody else's bones. And finally this boy David comes out against him. And as he draws closer, he says this. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. That's a great word. And he said to David, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Come here, he said, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. And David said, you know, you might look at me and underestimate me. But he said, I come in the name of the living God. And he said, today you will understand that there is a God in Israel. And he says, it's not about me. It is about the God who flows through me. And I think you know how the story turned out. Think about Jesus himself, not as a 12-year-old anymore, but maybe from the other side of the story. I want to kind of end tonight with a little passage from Hebrews chapter 4. And after Jesus' death and resurrection, after his ascension into heaven, as the early church looked back on Jesus and put into place who he really was all along, these words were written. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, But we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. I wonder if they saw it coming. I wonder if they expected that Jesus would turn out this way. As I said before, we underestimate middle school students. I think parents especially do that because you have a framework your whole life of seeing them as children. And there's certain roles and expectations that you have that you keep looking at them with that framework. And then this adult starts poking through. And many times parents are the last ones to see that. That was the case with Jesus as well. It was his brothers and his mother who were the last ones to figure it out. They too came to believe in him. But everybody else saw it first. Because they had this framework of seeing Jesus as the kid. So God keeps working through the middle, doesn't he? And the Bible has a word for the middleman. It's the word mediator. That means middleman. And that's what Jesus is here. That's the description. And I think it's important that Jesus was in the middle to be able to perform the function that we needed him to provide. See, Jesus is unclassified. Notice the words, Jesus, the Son of God. Now, Jesus is his human name. That's his earthly name. That's his common name. Joseph gave him the name by God's instruction. But Jesus, human, the Son of God, he truly did have to be in his Father's house. That truly is his Father. So which one is he? Yes. And the church affirms things like that. Brian led a few minutes ago in the creed. We have statements like that hang on to both truths and say, no, we can't let either one of these slide. You've got to hang on to both of those sides. Yes, true God. Yes, true man. Jesus had to be both so that he could stand in the middle. Therefore, we have this great high priest who has gone through the heavens. Jesus, the Son of God. And the result of that is that we would have confidence. Because Jesus, having been tempted in every way, just like we are, yet is without sin, Jesus now intercedes on our behalf at the throne of God. So, let us then approach the throne with confidence. That's the result for us. Having Jesus as mediator. I guess I'd close with a question tonight. If God has use for middle school students, might he have a use for me? If a middle school student is important to God, then might I be important to God? Do you think it's possible? And I think that's why God continues to work through the underprivileged, the underestimated, so that we would see that the power is not from ourselves, as Paul says in Corinthians, but the power is from God. The all-surpassing power, not from ourselves.